RWBY is an action-focused animated series produced by American-based studio Rooster Teeth. It was conceived by the late great MONTY, who one day thought to himself, hey, I want to make an anime. And then the mad lad actually did it. Now, I love RWBY. And I'm going to leave those words on the screen for a moment because I genuinely want people to understand that. While I can't say that I've actively kept up with the series all of the time, I have been following RWBY since all the way back to when the Red trailer was released back in 2012. Even before that, I had been following the work of MONTY since his time on game trailers, unraveling the conspiracy of if Master Chief was in fact a woman and in a relationship with Samus. But, and I know everybody knows that the but was coming, I am not in love with RWBY. This is an important distinction, and it's one that I had to make because I feel like a bit of what I'm going to be saying in this video is gonna come off as a negative. I have major problems with RWBY, from the world, to the characters, to the fact that sometimes I truly have to wonder where the series is going, and if it plans to end in a satisfying way. But I have to say that none of that has stopped me from enjoying it. At no point have I not found enjoyment in the series. Okay, yes, even with the part in Volume 1 with Jean, and him being an idiot, and yeah, even there. So while I have noticed issues, and will definitely mention some of them, RWBY is still entertaining and stands for me as the second best thing that Rooster Teeth has ever released. So we good? Good. Welcome to Glass Reflection. Let's jam. RWBY is the story of a group of young teenagers with superpowers who go to school to become good at fighting an evil demonic menace known as Grimm. Grimm are manifestations of evil and something that has been causing people problems for a long time. So much of a problem that their importance and relevance slowly diminishes as the series goes on. Many Grimm look like scary wolves in a totally not trying to be subtle reminder that almost everything from RWBY is a modern take on fairy tales and legends, like Little Red Riding Hood. RWBY, our protagonist, not to be confused with Team RWBY or the show's title, is a girl with a red hood who built her own death scythe as a not-so-subtle reminder that Soul Eater is an anime that exists and is totally not an influence on this series whatsoever. RWBY joins up with her new Huntress teammates, Stuck Up, Moody, and Punch-A-Lot, to stop various evil plots from a variety of evildoers, like Bowler Hat, Ice Cream Blockhead, and Maleficent, the mistress of all evil. Oh, and there are other characters here because... wait, how many characters are there again? While at its core, this is a story about fighting for what is right, though with a constant shifting of the definition of right and wrong, I assure you that the story is probably not what will get you or keep you interested in RWBY. You know what will, though? The fact that the show is cool as hell. Despite the narrative not being all that much different than a common page on TV tropes, RWBY is best positively described as a series that proves why some tropes are popular and why they work at making entertaining stories. Seriously though, the actual TV tropes page on RWBY is so big that they had to give it multiple separate pages. Tropes in and of themselves are not bad. They are merely tools that can help you build a narrative. The problem that most people have with an overuse of them is when tropes are used as a lazy way to write your story. Because why build an intricate backstory when you can just toss a character's family or friends into a fridge, or give them evil parents, or you get the idea. RWBY is not a series that I think uses its tropes badly, but rather that it uses a lot of them very, very quickly. RWBY is not for want of ideas, themes, or possible avenues for unique and awesome storytelling, but that's kind of its problem. Because RWBY has a big issue with scale. The world of Remnant is one that feels like it covers thousands of square miles, but is only an inch deep. So much of the world is brushed over with the barest hint of an explanation under the assumption that we really don't need much else. What's aura? Oh, it's just a shield that explains why characters can take so many hits without dying. What's a semblance? Basically similar to quirks from My Hero Academia, unique abilities that give people special powers. So it's like magic, right? No, magic is something that is completely separate that humans don't innately have anymore unless they use this mineral called dust mined from the earth. But what about Weiss? Okay, yeah, Weiss also has this power to summon past enemies to fight for her somehow. I don't know, it's a hereditary gift that's apparently not magic, but also not her semblance. It's just something that she can do, and they never really explain why. The rules of this world are almost kept in a state of constant flux, and most of it can be changed at any time for the sake of the plot, with one major exception. Because there is one rule that RWBY was pretty much based around. If it can be a gun, it's a gun. Gauntlets? It's a shotgun. Hammer? It's a grenade launcher. Thermos? It's a flamethrower. What about a spear? It's also a rifle. And a scythe?
It's also a gun.
Oh.
Because it's cool is a running theme in trying to explain anything that exists in this series, and while that does make for some prime entertainment, it's hard to keep track of everything after a while. What's almost worse about the amount of information we don't get is how readily the narrative keeps adding to it in droves. The show first introduces us to the idea of 4 super powerful women on the planet, referred to as the Maidens, who received their powers in order to protect the planet, or something. But before we can even get our heads wrapped around that, the following season they then say, oh hey, there are these things called relics now, which are also important. I guess. How important, you ask? Well, so important that at the end of season 6, which is 4 seasons of knowing that the Maidens exist and 3 seasons since the introduction of the relics, we've only seen 2 and 1 of them respectively. You'd think that the reason we're blazing through all of these seemingly deep facets of the world is because while the world itself is huge, they don't have time to really explain anything in lieu of just blitzing the main narrative, but I don't really buy that. The driving force of the show hasn't honestly changed all that much over time. While the initial 3 volumes acted like an introduction to all of the characters in a school-oriented format that genre-savvy anime fans would be accustomed to, volumes 4 through 6 and even the intro of volume 7 have just been more like one long road trip that doesn't really have an ending in sight. So I feel like they have no real pressure to explain or further build upon the parts of the world of Remnant that we've already seen, when the road trip will just continue to some new area. It's like flying to a new country for a sightseeing vacation, and only viewing the highlights. Sure, you could go to the UK and spend a day each to see like the Big Ben, Stonehenge, and I don't know, Hogwarts, but could you honestly say that in those 3 days that you saw what the UK was about? I'd say no. And the same holds true for Remnant. How could they fix that? Well, I'm not sure. Extra runtime or more episodes might help, and that's definitely been an improvement since the first volume. But even in volume 6, we had an episode that was only 13.5 minutes long, which includes the opening and ending. A standard 20 to 25 minute runtime is not something that RWBY has yet, and probably never will get, which is disappointing because I would have thought after Genlock, Rooster Teeth would have figured that out. Apparently not. Really, I feel like RWBY just needs a bit more focus on what it wants to do. Because there are still plenty of things that our characters could do, but sometimes too much choice is a bad thing. Even more than that, I feel like it's also a simple matter of we can't see the ending yet. Despite most of the narrative being predictable, considering its trope-heavy nature, the same cannot be said for predicting how the show might end, or even when it might end. The lead writers over at Rooster Teeth have stated that there are still plenty of seasons left to go, but I wonder if that's really what's best. Let's just hope that the series hasn't jumped the shark quite yet. Now, the animation of the series is... So the animation, to be very generous, is great for us, the audience, for one major reason. Because it shows the growth and improvement that a studio gets with its skills and techniques. Plenty of the work done in Volume 1 of RWBY is rough, like really rough. Motions are awkward, walk cycles are skewed, lip sync is barely in existence, and any character not important or relevant is a black shadow because there isn't the time or budget to do anything beyond that. Starting in Volume 2, the budget increases slightly, which is enough to A, get rid of the shadow people, and B, give us one of the franchise's best scenes that no one can argue with me about. And then in Volume 4, everybody gets new models, the whole series switches animation software, and all of the little things become far more impressive as time goes on. This is not something we normally get the chance to see. Normally the animation is either good enough at the start that we don't question it, or bad enough that that's all we get before the whole project is canned before it can even improve. It's rare that we get the chance to see improvement in a dedicated team of animators over time for any particular project. Also, if nothing else, it's both motivating and impressive to be able to witness said change in RWBY over time. Though, of course, the highlight of RWBY is, and always has been, its fights and choreography. While the animation in early volumes during talking head scenes was almost always questionable, the fight scenes were not. The argument could be made that the fight scenes from earlier volumes still stand up to later iterations done with improved software. Hell, I'd make the argument that even the Yellow trailer way back from 2013 had fighting that was still impressive compared to RWBY of today. But even then, there is this feeling like something is missing. Now, some people attribute the change in fighting to the loss of the series creator MONTY back in 2015, but even looking at the fights that he choreographed himself, it still feels like there was something missing. Like, there were and still are fantastic fights, impressively made and insane to watch, but I don't feel like any of the fights in RWBY had much emotional weight behind them as they could have. Instead, they just seem like awesome looking fights for the sake of having an awesome looking fight. Oh, that's probably sounding really confusing because that's like both a positive and a negative. Okay, let me give an example. Okay, so I've never been a big fan of Naruto, but even I know of the fight between Rock Lee and Gaara. It's the almost 40-minute fight spread out between several episodes that, despite its shonen tendency to have spectating characters continually talking over the action, still, to this day, holds up as an impressive and emotionally charged fight. What is the equivalent to that fight in RWBY? Because, like, fights happen. Fights look insane. Fights can be technically impressive if you know or guess the inner workings of the characters and how they fight, but few of the fights have much emotion behind them. While it can still be cool to have pretty fights for the sake of it, it would be nice to start seeing some fights with actual weight behind them. Actual stakes. Show's got plenty of characters. Just saying. But for its lack of emotion and weight in the fight scenes, it is still a series that has plenty of heart. While I can't be 100% certain, I think this is probably why I still enjoy the hell out of watching it. Yang has always impressed me with her inner fire and determination, Blake with her courage to face her fears, Weiss by subverting expectations, and RWBY with her boundless optimism.
I'm a failure.
Nope.
Nope?
Nope. You're a leader now, Jean. You're not allowed to be a failure.
But what if I'm a failure at being a leader?
Nope.
Because production value does not, by itself, make an interesting or entertaining series. You can have the best animation of the age, have amazing music and vocal casts to back them up, but without compelling characters that you want to see more of, the best that you can hope for is a beautiful looking flash of awesome that fizzles out almost instantly. RWBY is not that. RWBY has been a slow burn that over time has been building to bigger and more fantastical heights. I can only hope that the fire it creates doesn't suffocate itself out by the time whatever ending the creators have in store for it eventually happens. If it happens. And so, with all of that in mind, after meticulously calculating my thoughts on the categories of story, characters, animation, sound, and my own personal enjoyment, which I then manifest into a gun and fire into the sun, I happily award RWBY with the recommendation to watch it. And you can currently do this in multiple locations. Most of RWBY is actually available right here on YouTube, on Rooster Teeth's channel, but it's also available on their own proprietary streaming service, on Verve, and of course, with our good friends over at Crunchyroll. Watch it wherever you fancy, but if you're looking for a similar show that might scratch a similar itch, the initial obvious recommendation is Soul Eater, considering the similarities to the opening seasons of RWBY. Follow-up recommendation is basically any shonen anime ever, preferably one with a deeper story and potentially an ending, like Fullmetal Alchemist or Hunter x Hunter. Lastly, I want to give a very special thank you to my patrons who not only support my work in general, but who also allow me to do what I do. I love and appreciate you all. Specifically though, as I like to do, I want to give particular shoutouts to patrons Richard Emil Bradley, Hector Montemayor, City Yamako, Ryfen Bonaparte, Broom Jacobson, and Calhoonboy for being especially awesome. You guys are great. And until next time, wait, didn't I say that? Yeah, I said early on that RWBY was the second best Rooster Teeth show, didn't I? You wanna know what the first is? I'm not joking either. And until next time, Ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime and stay frosty.